Shoutouts Sports. My name is Nathan Simmons, and with me, as always, this is Nathan Kwan. We have a special guest again, coming back to talk about Wimbledon. Is our tennis expert, Thejas. Let's dive right into that. Wimbledon has started this past week, and it's already been off to kind of a controversial week. Want to take us away on that, Thejas?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, no, this has been, as you said, this has been an interesting Wimbledon. The first round, there was already a controversy, actually. On the men's side, Bernard Tomic, the Australian player, he lost the first round, but while he was losing, he admitted that he cheated. This is actually quite interesting, like a player just admits that he cheated. And the way he cheated was one of the biggest things in tennis, or actually in the pro sports, is the medical timeouts. So what happens is basically like a player can take a medical timeout, and then they basically get, I think, like 5 minutes or something, and they can work with the trainer to actually like help them with any injuries they have. And I think they can do it at the end of the set or something of that sort, and in the middle of the set once. So what Bernard Tomic did was he did a similar thing. He just took a medical timeout. But the main controversy around that is the fact, like, a lot of players do this, but they do it for the wrong reason. They might not have a physical injury per se, but it might be to break the momentum of the other players. So Bernard Tomic, he admitted that he was basically taking a medical timeout when it was not necessary for him to, and it was just to break the momentum of the game, and basically hopefully he can get a momentum going. It's kind of shocking that he's admitting to it. I mean, it's kind of known that players do it. Similarly, in the Australian Open, it happened. Federer versus Stan in the semifinals. Very big controversy that Federer took out the medical timeout on the fifth set for his ties. Players were like bashing against him because he took it like at a very crucial time. And people say that's the reason he got up and won the match. It's rather surprising.
Yeah, Tejas. So another thing that was kind of in the news today was Victoria Azarenka beat Heather Watson yesterday in the third round in the ladies' side, and that she was accused of receiving illegal coaching from the box during that match. And so I guess what are your thoughts on that situation?
The Azarenka controversy is pretty interesting. She's actually been, accused of cheating several times. Similar, like before when she won the Australian Open, she had a medical timeout. And similarly, like here, it might have been something similar of that sort, that she might have been actually taking some coaching. But it's really hard line to draw because no one can really tell if there was a coaching done. Players always look up to their box when in frustration or when they win a point. And sometimes coaches do make some movements, but it's really hard to ascertain that it was for a purpose or not. But having said that, it could have been for an illicit purpose, such as for coaching or something.
But I would say probably the biggest controversy coming out of Wimbledon right now has been the rash of injuries. I mean, the most severe I felt was Bethany Sands, one American women tennis player. As she was like charging towards the net, her knee popped out halfway through. What's your take on this rash of injuries? I think a lot of people have talked about trying to maybe change up the surface, or at least changing up whether or not people receive the money if they come into a match already injured.
That's a good question, Nathan. So Wimbledon is kind of known for this because of the fact, like, the surface, one of the ends, it becomes very slippery, especially on the tees, because of the fact, like, a lot of players would have played on the grass and the course becomes slippery, and injuries are pretty prone. Like, last year Federer, had his biggest injury, which made him not play for the next 6 months. He fell against Raonic in the semis. So, no, to answer your second question, which is about the money. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very sensitive topic. I mean, in my personal opinion, if they play that round, they should be able to receive the prize earnings for that round. And tennis is a very brutal sport. If you're not in the top 10, top 20 of either the men's or the women's draw, money is very hard to come by. If you're a person who plays on the ATP circuit and not in the top 50, it's really hard to make a living. And one of the biggest stories that came out was Jerzy Janowicz a couple of years ago before he rose to stardom. There was an article about him. Basically, he used to sleep on his van, and because he could not earn a lot of money. And so getting to the point is like, the players a lot of times make this decision, even though they're injured, they might play, especially not the top ranking players like Federer and Nadal and so on and forth. They might play a match when they're injured, and it's up to the tennis association, in this case, actually not even the tennis association, Wimbledon, that they should probably make the players who play that round get the full amount of money what they should receive. But it's kind of sad though. We see a lot of injuries in grass. And on the one end is probably one of the best courts to play on because of it's very easy on your body. At the same time, because of so many players play on the grass wears down and people just fall. Just fall and they get injured. It can be slippery. So it's a dichotomy.
Definitely, and in all fairness too, like this is the first time that since I've been following tennis that I remember like this many injuries happening at Wimbledon.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this has just been like this so severe. Like I can't. I don't know what, maybe they've changed up the surface in and of itself or something like that. I mean, they've got to change something with that. And to go back also to whether or not pay and stuff like that, I mean, you make excellent points that I completely agree with about how, like, especially if you're not like one of the top players in the ATP or WTA, you kind of have to try everything you can to get as much money as you possibly can. And if you take away the cash incentive in terms of just like, hey, if you have a medical injury, then you're not going to get fully paid or anything like that, that's just going to force players to try to play out the entire match while really hurt. And that could actually make the injury even worse. So, I mean, like, if you really do care about the player's safety, then like you should really consider like maybe some sort of like insurance or something like that for the player if they have to pull out, so that they at least earn enough so that it's incentivized for them to pull out, but also incentivized for them not to try to pull out in the middle of the match and really have the fans like lose out on getting to see actual tennis played.
I know, right on. Like, I mean, that's actually a very good point. Like basically incentivizing players to actually play like half the match or something. No, yeah. And then the other thing with Wimbledon actually this year is there's been a lot of players who's coming on, like, you can't really tell. A lot of players have had a lot of like lagging injuries, such as Murray, for example. He's been injured. He pulled out of Queens earlier the grass court season because he had hip injury. And one of the biggest concerns was whether he was going to play at the Wimbledon. And, sure enough, he's playing and he's playing very well. He dropped a set that last round yesterday, but this just one set, he's been playing pretty well. And then on the other end, Djokovic and Federer, both on the first round, they had a walkover because their respective players, they had injuries. Whether it was lingering or whether it was caused by them playing in Wimbledon itself is hard to know. It's pretty sad. And then another rising star from Australia, Nick Kyrgios. Yeah, similar. He had to drop in the first round because he's been having injuries the whole year. Earlier this year in Indian Wells, actually, he played an amazing 3 sets against Federer. Having played the 3 sets, I thought he was going to be in the top 10 this year. But again, he's had injuries. It's been hurt. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I want to switch gears now, and I want to talk about John McEnroe. So he made some controversial comments, actually several. First, he made a dig at Serena Williams and women's tennis in general, saying that if she played the men's circuit, she would be ranked number 700 in the world. And then next, he compared Novak Djokovic to Tiger Woods, I guess based on his struggles in recent years, speculating on his personal life. So I guess, Thejas, what are your thoughts on those two comments made by McEnroe?
Let's start with the first one. I mean, I have to say what McEnroe had said has some truth to it. It is true, but Serena's reply and a lot of people's reply is this, right? The men's circuit and the women's circuit is completely two different sports. It's like comparing apples and oranges, or saying like, what if LeBron played tennis? It's something similar. Basically, him saying Serena would not be being in the 700. But having said that, Serena is a great player, and that's one side of the argument. The argument saying like, you cannot really compare men's circuit versus women's circuit. But at the same time, the sport is almost the same. It is the same sport. The rules are the same. The bases are the same. The way the men's play, the way the women's play might be different. But it's really a judgment call whether you can actually say they both are the same sport because the style of play is so different. It's a very sensitive topic, actually, in my opinion. But his statement is true. Like, she would not be in the top 100 without a doubt. I mean, she once said a couple of years ago if she played, I think, Andy Roddick or someone, or one of the top men's players, that she would lose 6-0, 6-0, which is true. Having said that, you could say like she would not be the greatest of all time. But if you consider that they're two independent sports, she could say she's a great athlete, one of the greatest athletes of all time. The second thing about him saying that Tiger Woods and Novak Djokovic, like comparing Djokovic to Tiger Woods. I actually did not hear about this. This is quite surprising for me. In my opinion, he has no right to make such a statement. Maybe he has a little more depth and more understanding of Novak's life than I do. But making such judgment calls is very, very, it's out of his scope. That's not what he's supposed to do, I mean, talking about personal life. If he's struggling in the personal life, I really hope he gets better. He's a really nice guy. He's a really good guy. But it might be true because physically he's there. Like, Djokovic is playing very well physically. He doesn't have any injuries. I would hope not. But I just feel as if something mental more than anything.
To me, for John McEnroe's comments, I mean, granted, they're just comments, so I mean, like, it's not like I'm going to hold his feet to the fire too much, but I kind of disagree with the judgments on his comments about Serena, first off. I mean, I mean, it's going to be hard to tell now, especially since, like, I mean, like, I honestly, like, as someone that has played tennis at a high level at Super Champs, like, I mean, like, yeah, I've played tennis against women before, and I've gotten my ass kicked multiple times by women. Well, I don't think it's exactly fair to say that she'd be like 700 or something. It's also, like you said, it's very hard to really compare the two. But at the same time, like, I mean, like, we can go back all the way to the 70s and the Battle of the Sexes, and I mean, it's not a different sport necessarily. It's just how do you necessarily go about comparing the two? I mean, I'd be all for seeing like sort of a sequel to that and having John McEnroe play against like Serena Williams and maybe settle it out that way. That'd be chill. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it was just kind of an unnecessary comment. I mean, like, yeah, the reporter who was asking him the questions, like, I mean, like, was really pressing him on that. But at the same time, the more truthful thing to say, I mean, like, let's just be honest. Like, the truth of the matter is just that, like, why compare Serena and like whether or not how well she would do on the men's circuit? Like, she's arguably the greatest women's player of all time. I mean, like, I'd much rather prefer to leave it at that. But that also being said, going also to the Novak Djokovic thing, I mean, I feel like John McEnroe has kind of entered into his old man yells at sky phase of his life. And it's just, I don't see the parallels between Novak and Tiger Woods. I mean, Tiger Woods was, I mean, like, while you can maybe like say like, yeah, they're both like people that were at the top of their game but are struggling. I mean, first off, like, Tiger Woods just completely fell off like the minute the whole thing went down with his wife. Like, his just life completely spiraled, and he was never the same. I mean, Novak is still competitive and still up there with the best. I mean, and even it like, and the other part of that is just like, why speculate on someone's personal life if you don't in the public, especially if you don't know that person. And even if you did know that person, like, that would be in like really poor taste to do that, to air someone's dirty laundry out there, especially if they don't want that out there. I mean, I don't know what the relationship is between Novak and John, but I mean, like, I can't imagine it being so close that Novak would have given John his blessing in terms of like airing out whether or not like his personal life is really affecting his tennis play. So, I mean, I think this one was also very much in poor taste, but this one also was just very much just not true. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, John McEnroe is still a legend. It's just like, also, I don't really put much stock into whatever he says now.
Yeah, I mean, he is paid as a commentator. I mean, this is similar to Charles Barkley for the NBA. He says what's on his mind, and he doesn't care what you think about it. He's not going to apologize for what he says. As far as what he said, I think, like Thejas said, I think it's what he said is probably true. But I mean, it's pretty unnecessary for him to make that comparison. As you said, it's like people always say, like, what if LeBron James played in the NFL? It's kind of just like a topic that they throw out there when there's nothing else to talk about to stir up some controversy. On a side note, though, there is a movie coming out that talks about the battle of the sexes. Emma Stone is Billie Jean King and Steve Carell is Bobby Riggs. And so that's coming out actually later this summer. So if nothing else, it'll stir up some interest for this movie coming out.
There's also another movie with Shia LaBeouf starring as John McEnroe.
Yeah, it's McEnroe versus Borg. That's the one.
Yeah, a lot of tennis movies coming out. I don't know why.
Nice. Yeah. And then this whole Djokovic thing, like, I don't really see the comparison with Tiger Woods. From what we know about Djokovic's personal life, he's married to his childhood sweetheart, and she's pregnant with their second kid. So it's not anything similar to the issues Tiger Woods had in his marriage. But I want to take it back onto the court now. So far, it's the draw's been pretty chalk on both sides. Kai Nishikori got upset yesterday on the men's side, but Tejas, do you have any picks, or is this just gonna be chalk all the way to the semis in the final?
So there's another big upset, which we forgot to say, was Stan Wawrinka on the men's side. He lost in the first round. So before we start on the draw, so before the draw was split, so the number one was up for draws, and Stan, having won the US Open last year, he still has the US Open title, and he made it to the final of the French Open. You would have expected a pretty good performance from Stan, but it was a sad thing to see that he lost in the first round. I'm a big fan of him. So he lost straight sets, straight or 4 sets or something like that starting in the first round. The second big thing was, as you said, Kei Nishikori losing yesterday. So those are the two biggest upsets thus far. But having said that, Djokovic is playing right now. I mean, going back to the talk about Djokovic, we were talking about how, he's not been playing well. But in this Wimbledon, by God, I mean, he looks like he can win the championship. He's not lost a set. He's playing Ernest Gulbis, who beat the big Argentine last round, Delpo. And now he's cruising. Djokovic is cruising through Ernest Gulbis, 2 sets up, third set. He's playing amazing. And then going out to the other side of the draw, actually, Nadal too. He won the French Open. He did not play any of the warm-up tournaments to Wimbledon. But it's amazing. He's actually struggled in Wimbledon in the past few years, not making through the first three rounds. I think whenever he last won his Wimbledon title, he's not ever had a good success. But this year, he's playing amazing tennis this season in Wimbledon. He got pushed to the brink, quote unquote, meaning third set, it was a tiebreak. That's nothing still. And Murray as well. As I said, he's been having hip injuries. But being a champion he's up and running. His third round also he won, not lost. He lost 1 set. And I guess the biggest talk right now is Roger Federer, right? He took the clay court season off, won the Australian Open, won the Indian Wells, won Miami, and did not play the French or any other clay court season. Played in Halle, beat Alexander Zverev in the final, and now he's in Wimbledon. Though, I mean, you got to note, he lost one of the other warm-up tournaments to Wimbledon as well. I forgot which one, but he lost in the first round. But he's a favorite to win Wimbledon this year because of his track record this year. But, the way that Nadal is playing, the way Djokovic is playing, it's really, really to say he's really hard to say that he's the favorite. And then the other one is actually another interesting thing to note is Milos Raonic as well. He beat Federer last year in the semis, made it to the final, lost to Murray, but he's actually struggled through injuries this year. He hasn't had much of a success anywhere, but I mean, he's also looking pretty sharp in Wimbledon. I don't think he's lost a set. And a player to watch out for is actually our previous US Open champion, Marin Cilic. He's a wild card in my opinion. He has the game to be in the top. Whether he can make use of it is really up to him. He's seated number 7, so he's seated pretty high. And he's been playing pretty well, winning all of his matches in straight sets. So he could come up as well. But again, in the semis, I have to give it to the big 4: Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray. I'm calling their bets to the semis this year. They're playing just too good.
Do you have any thoughts on the ladies' side?
Yeah, good question. So the ladies' side, I mean, it's an open draw in my opinion. Anyone can win it. It's Kerber. She did very well last year. As I said last in the French Open, she's just having a lot of issues this year to try to get into rhythm. She's not had much of a success. Again, today she got pushed to the 3 sets. So it's really hard to say who's going to have any success there. I mean, take the token in the French Open, or a 19 or 20-year-old, from nowhere. It's a French Open. She won the French Open title. On one end, it's like maybe a Rafa Nadal in the making, But in reality, she's the women's draw is just so open that it's really hard to say who's going to make it thus far. Wozniacki, she's been climbing up slowly up the ladder, so she might have some success. And Simona Halep, right? I really, again, going back to what I said last time, I really like her game, her play. Let's see if she can make it up this far again. She made it the French Open finals of the French. Maybe she can go full out and maybe win it. But apart from that, I can't really say too much in the women's side of the draw because I feel as if that draw is just so open. In a lot of ways, women's draw is the way that sports is supposed to be, volatile, like in the day and age of sports. In basketball, there's super teams. In tennis, there's super players like Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, who you expect to win. But, the fun of the sport is, you make predictions, but the predictions do not have much of a basis because of the fact it's so volatile. That's where, when you actually go root for a player or when you watch for tennis or any sport, that's where the fun comes into play. And I feel as though for that reason, the women's tour is a little more fun to watch because you do not know who's going to win. And every game is so much on the cringe, you could say, because it's hard to predict who's going to win.
Yeah, it's like the NCAA tournament versus the NBA playoffs. One is extremely predictable. The other is just crazy, unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
But I want to thank you so much, Tejas, for coming on and talking Wimbledon again. Thank you.
Right,
thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.
But let's move on to the NBA free agency, and as well as NBA Summer League. So let's start off with actually the Dallas Mavericks, because the Dallas Mavericks are your 2017 Orlando Summer League champions after Jonathan Motley hit a clutch shot with 0.3 of a second left. John Motley is the former Baylor Bear power forward who unfortunately for him went undrafted in this year's draft due to concerns about his health. As well as concerns about his ability to shoot from outside, as well as maybe like strength in the post. But I mean, this guy's got the athleticism, and I think he's got the frame to also add on some extra strength and muscle. He made a great shot, especially after being fed by also Ding Yuan Hung, who came over from the CBA after winning the CBA MVP award. And both those two have looked incredibly strong. Ding is someone that seems to just be able to do it all. He has incredible court vision and high basketball IQ, which is really surprising considering when I watched his highlights, he seemed to play a lot of like ISO hero ball, but looking back at it, it looks more likely that it was just mostly due to the fact that he was probably the only really good player on his team and he just had no one to pass it to. Been a great facilitator. And he's also got a sweet three-point stroke that if he can improve on its consistency, I mean, like I can definitely see him becoming a strong like rotational player. It's a really great sign to see it just because like for the Orlando Summer League, yeah, that's technically probably the weakest of the summer leagues between Orlando, Utah, and Vegas. But even so, like this team did not have like any first round talent on it, and instead was going up against lottery round picks. Like in the finals, they went against Luke Kennard. They also played against like Jonathan Isaac, people like that. And they were able to beat them with strong fundamental basketball and team basketball. And so that's really good to see. And so I guess kudos to the entire team on that, and definitely as well as the coaching on that. And so it's going to be interesting to see what this team does in Vegas, especially now that they'll have Dennis Smith Jr. getting to play for them, as well as a few others. I believe Yogi Ferrell is also going to be there since he's still eligible. Kudos to those guys, as well as kudos to Joe Chi of the Houston Rockets for making his debut last night in Vegas, in which he put up, I believe, 18 points. It had some good blocks.
Yes.
So,
Joe Chi, the latest Chinese sensation for the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I'm super high on this guy.
No, Kevin was talking about him when we buried the Rockets at the end of their playoff series against the Spurs, about him possibly coming over. He was a second-round pick last year, 7'1" guy, so he's got the height. Definitely needs to put on some weight in the weight room. I mean, he's got the three-point stroke in the modern NBA center. Yao, of course, played in an era where Shaq was still in the league, so you throw him the ball down to the post and let him go to work and then play inside out. But Joe Chi seems to be fitting this modern game where long and lengthy, can put the ball on the floor a little bit and also shoot the three from the outside. Other players to note from Summer League, Isaiah Hartenstein, who is their draft pick this year, is on the team. I saw a highlight where he caught an alley-oop, so he's probably going to play overseas this year for them. Isaiah Taylor, who the Rockets had in their Summer League team last year, and then he was on their D-League team, and they signed him to a long-term contract. He's there. And then Troy Williams, who filled in nicely down the stretch for the Rockets and signed a long-term deal with them. He starred last night for the team. So other news, I guess, outside of Summer League was last week they signed PJ Tucker, former UT Longhorn, played with the Suns and then Raptors last year. I think he's going to bring some of the Patrick Beverley toughness that they lost when they traded Bev to the Clippers. He's a decent three-point shooter, but I think him and Trevor Ariza will be integral for the Rockets defensively, guarding the opposing team's wings. So that's a good get for them.
Definitely. Yeah. Also, some slight controversy with Nene's contract. I mean, we've originally reported him having been signed with the Rockets. He's now still signed with the Rockets, but it took some strange sort of turns of events for him to finally get there. So essentially what happened was something is essentially that if your contract goes all the way till you're like 38, you're kind of like forced to take smaller contracts. And that was a big thing for Chris Paul, who negotiated in the last CBA. And so unfortunately for Nene, since the contract was going to last for 4 years, that would take him all the way up to his age 38 season, which he was off by like 12 days, I believe, or something like that in terms of his birth, and also went to qualify on that. And so essentially because of that, he went from taking a 4-year, $15 million a year contract to a 4-year, $11 million a year contract, if I get my numbers correct on that. And that ended up costing him a lot of money. But he's finally signed, and he should help at the 5 position with Clint Capella, as he did this past year. I mean, he's still a solid rebounder, solid defender, and solid post scorer as well. Especially now that he's going to have Chris Paul as well as James Harden feeding him the rock. So that's going to be good. Other news around the league. The biggest free agency news this past week was Gordon Hayward finally making his decision. I believe we both predicted him going to the Celtics, but still definitely kind of like blindsided the Jazz a little bit. There's been a lot of talk also about why, to me, it made a lot of sense for Gordon Hayward to go to the Boston Celtics, just because, like, I mean, the Jazz, while a nice team, if he was going to be there, like there's no way for them to be like nearly as competitive as if he joined the Boston Celtics. And this isn't like Kevin Durant going from an Oklahoma City Thunder team that almost made it to the finals if they hadn't blown a 3-1 lead to pretty much going to the team that they blew the 3-1 lead to. I mean, like this Jazz team is just not close to competing with the Warriors. And so, I mean, it made a lot more sense for Gordon to just go play for his former college coach in Boston, and also sort of take on the role as either second in command to Isaiah Thomas in terms of scoring, but also being a strong defender. That move actually ended up costing Boston one of their better players. Avery Bradley, UT alum, got shipped off to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for one of Marcus Morris, I believe. Yeah, Marcus Morris, a power forward. I mean, no offense to Marcus, but he's not as good as Avery Bradley. But that's because Avery Bradley is one of the premier 3-and-D guys in the league. What's your take on any of this?
Yeah. You know, I like the Players Tribune. I like the idea of it when Derek Jeter started it. And mostly it's been good articles told firsthand from athletes that want to get their thoughts out there without any media interference. But it's getting a little eye-rolling every time somebody has to justify why they're going somewhere and why they enjoy their time in Utah so much. It's not intriguing to me anymore, because I think Utah did have something special there. I mean, granted, they're not going to compete with Golden State anytime soon, but they built that program up from the ground up. A couple of years ago, they had Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap, and then they got rid of those two. They got rid of Enes Kanter, and then they had a really young team that was ready to blossom. I loved the way they played the game. They were the baby Spurs, and the way Quinn Snyder ran that offense, and they're going to have to start over again. So I think it's a blow for them. But yeah, I mean, it's going to help Boston stay up there right with the Celtics in the East. I think Avery Bradley, it was a very important player for them last year, and I think having to trade him to make the salary cap work, it's kind of a blow to me. Other news around the league was Paul Millsap going to the Denver Nuggets, and so the West continues to get talent loaded. He and Jokic will make an interesting front court tandem. I think their games complement each other. Millsap can play inside and out, but he's got a good 3-point shot. And then Jokic is your prototypical big on the block, throw it down to him, and he's going to make good things happen to you. And then
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could add to, like, I mean, there, like, I can't think of another front court that's as good beyond just obviously like the one in New Orleans with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. I mean, like you said, they definitely complement each other's skill set. I mean, like, and especially since like Nikola Jokic is just someone that can like feed the ball to Paul Millsap, and then Paul Millsap will just like, you know, crank it from three or like get mid-range jumper or do a nice like post move. This is a very great match.
Yeah, so the Spurs added Rudy Gay. He played last year with the Kings and then got the Achilles injury, but he turned down more money to sign in San Antonio. It's an interesting fit. I mean, Gay throughout his career has been known as a chucker, kind of takes bad shots, has never really played for a winner. So I have faith in that Greg Popovich will be able to implement him into their offensive system and have him share the ball and not chuck up as many bad shots as he has throughout his career. And I mean, it's just more athletic wing talent for Pop to work with. It remains to be seen if they can re-sign Jonathan Simmons, which I think he was so important for them, and he's a young player as well. So that's another offseason thing still remaining for San Antonio. But they lost out on Chris Paul, but they got Rudy Gay.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a very Spursy move, just to like, you know, like to bet on someone and approve a contract. I mean, like this is I think it's a good move. I mean, definitely it stinks that they weren't really able to get one of the premier point guards in this year's free agency. I mean, they were able to re-sign like Patty Mills, so it's not really saying anything too much. It's just like also like you hope this. It looks like Pau Gasol like really kind of like backed out of his final year of his contract for not too much in terms of the Spurs gaining anything. Just to add on, the Mavs did make one move this week, and that's basically taking on a salary dump in McRoberts, power forward from Miami Heat, who's also had his own injury issues. But even when he's playing, he's not nearly as productive as someone like Blake Griffin or anything like that. But what they ended up getting was a second-round pick in 2023, as well as getting able to trade away AJ Hammonds, who, I mean, granted, like he wasn't signed for that much or for that long, but I mean, he wasn't like, I feel like Josh McRoberts, if he can stay healthy, is going to contribute a heck of a lot more to this team than AJ Hammonds. No offense to AJ Hammonds. But to me, what this kind of seems to signal a little bit is that like the Mavs are looking at the rest of the West and just seeing how stacked each of these teams are, especially after all the moves they've made and how all the stars in the East have pretty much gone west, beyond just obviously, you know, Cleveland and all those. I mean, they're looking at it and they're like, okay, there's really no way for us to make the playoffs this year. And so what they're doing is just like not really going ham in this year's free agent class. And maybe they ended up trying to save it for next year's class and try to make a run at maybe LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, like, I'm not super high on him, and I think his style of play is kind of not that well suited for the modern NBA, especially since he's not that efficient a 3-point shooter in a league that pretty much like wants people that can space the floor. I could possibly see them making a run at DeMarcus Cousins, but I just don't see it. But yeah, I mean, like, it looks like they're going to also try making a maybe not necessarily a soft tank per se. I mean, like, you know, obviously wait till like the All-Star break or the trade deadline in general, specifically, until you make a decision. But I mean, like, I don't think they're going to be pushing themselves too hard to make the playoffs this year. Let's just put it that way. And I mean, honestly, like, even though this Mavs team should be much better than it was last year, and also is probably better than a lot of teams out east, they still have a very strong chance of still getting a top 10 pick in next year's draft, just because like of how competitive and how strong this Western Conference is, as well as like the division that they're playing in. Like, I mean, like, far and away, I feel like the Mavs are probably the worst team in the Southwest Division, honestly. Like, I mean, like this draft is deep in power forwards and shooting guards. So I mean, it wouldn't hurt to get an extra player that can help play alongside DSJ and Harrison Barnes and Nerlens Noel. Also, yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Shout out to Dirk for re-signing at a huge discount. He signed to a 2-year, $10 million overall contract, so that's $5 million a year. I mean, granted, like more than likely, Cubes, like probably sending him money under the table somehow. But I mean, part of it is also just like at the end of the day, like Dirk has never been someone that really played basketball for the money. Like he's just someone that absolutely loves playing basketball and just sort of like loves this team and loves Dallas. And so it's just, I mean, like if Mark Cuban ever tries trading like Dirk, like there should be like a lot of angry pitchforks and torches and whatnot out front of the ACC. Like there's, I mean, like if he does that, then like that's just like, I mean, like I would probably stop rooting for the Mavericks, but there's no way that's going to happen.
Moving on from one ageless Dallas wonder to another, in Adrian Beltre and the Texas Rangers. How are they doing?
They're doing okay. I mean, like they almost got swept by the Boston Red Sox. I mean, granted, like Boston is one of the hottest teams in the league right now, but I mean, damn, like, I mean, they got their butts kicked a lot until pretty much like the last game in which they finally did the butt kicking themselves. Last night, the Texas Rangers spanked the Angels 10-0. Beltre had a home run and a hit, and now he's 23 hits away from 3,000 hits for the career, which I mean must be reiterated is one of the greatest accomplishments a baseball player could ever have. I mean, this guy, I wish we had Adrian Beltre for his entire career so that we could have said like, hey, this is our guy. But I mean, good Lord, Adrian Beltre is amazing. Absolutely love this guy. I mean, Rougned Odor also had a great game last night. He had a home run and two other hits as well. And Cole Hamels pretty much pitched in almost a complete game shutout. They pulled him in the 8th after 2 outs. He had 6 strikeouts, one walk. It's beginning to look like he's kind of getting into old form, Cole. Although, yeah, like he's still having some trouble missing bats, but I think he's been able to compensate it by inducing a lot of grounders and getting those double plays whenever he gives up a hit or a walk. He's showing good control is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like right now, I mean, this team is 32 and 34, I believe. It's going to be interesting to see what they tried doing at the deadline, because I mean, I just don't think they have the prospects in terms of cachet to really trade for anyone of significance. I mean, at the end of the day, they really need to. What they really need to do is maybe try trading away Jonathan Lucroy and try getting back anything they can for him. I mean, Jonathan Lucroy is just. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see like what happens to him in free agency, because I honestly don't see him getting that long a contract just because of how poor his hitting has been this year. I mean, at least for a catcher, like he's been, about average to maybe a little bit above average. But I mean, this is someone that was at one point considered the best hitting catcher in the league, even last year. And now he's just like kind of reverted back to what was happening to him the year prior to 2016. And I mean, it's unfortunate to see, but thumbs the brakes. I mean, it looks like they're definitely going to try re-signing Yu Darvish. I mean, I think we've mentioned this before, but yeah, I mean, like it's looking more likely that they're going to be able to just focus completely on re-signing Yu, especially since Shohei Ohtani, who's probably the best player in baseball who's not signed to an MLB contract. Like he's a 23-year-old ace and home run hitter. So I mean. I think John Daniels, the GM for the Rangers, is just dreaming of trying to sign this guy. I think Yu Darvish is. They're going to try everything in their power to re-sign him in the offseason. So that's going to be nice. Other big news: Elvis Andrus
Yu Darvish also made it to the Yu Darvish did make it to the All-Star game. I don't think he's going to be playing this time around though. But other big news was Elvis Andrus was in the final vote, which was kind of BS, honestly, because he got robbed by Francona, who ended up going with his own shortstop in Francisco Lindor. I mean, and granted, Francisco Lindor is a great shortstop. No one's going to take that away from him. And it's a very competitive position in the American League in terms of like who else is good. I mean, obviously you have Carlos Correa in Houston, who's kind of proving himself to be kind of a generational talent at this point, which I mean, which is good news for the for the Astros. But you also have Xander Bogaerts and in Boston, Francisco Lindor, and then you have Elvis Andrus, who's really turned things around and is finally really living up to his contract, and probably living up past above his contract as well in terms of value. I honestly, to me, like it should have been either Xander or Bogaerts who got picked as reserves versus Francisco Lindor, but because Francona is the coach of the AL All-Stars, he got to choose his own player over those two. And then with the final vote, I mean it's just not very likely that Elvis makes it.
It is what it is. The All-Star game doesn't really mean anything anymore. It's just for the fans, and it's going to be a spectacle more than. And I mean, there's been people snubbed before, and there's going to be people snubbed in the future. It sucks when it's the player on a team that you root for. As far as the Houston Astros, the best team in the majors, the best road team I have ever seen in any sport. They're absolutely ridiculous. They're being carried again offensively by the best offense in the majors. And I read articles this week that compared this offense to one of the best offenses of all time when like the 1927 New York Yankees. And they don't have the star power per se that team had. But I mean, you look at the stats that they're putting up. It's just absolutely ridiculous. They won 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. They came back on a Saturday night last weekend, and then they swept the Atlanta Braves. I think they had 14 doubles in 2 days in Atlanta. So they destroyed Atlanta's pitching. George Springer has been absolutely amazing. We've mentioned him throughout the season, but I mean, the evolution in his game, he always had the talent. He struggled with injuries throughout his career, but I mean, he's put it all together this year. He has 27 home runs now from the leadoff position, and he's hitting the ball the other way. He's cut down his strikeouts so much. This past week, he had 3 home runs and 8 RBI. His OPS is over 1,400. Jose Altuve, again, unsung hero. I don't know why he's not getting more consideration for MVP. I mean, he's just Mr. Consistency with the amount of production he provides at second base. And year in and year out, I mean, this past week, he had 7 RBI. And then Yuli Gurriel, we mentioned earlier in the season, was on fire. He cooled off a little bit, and then he's right back on fire now. He had 10 RBI this past week, OPS over 1,400. And then Carlos Correa also. So, I mean, basically, up and down the lineup, this Astros offense continues to carry the team, and they are in Toronto this weekend. It's going to be up to the starting pitching. As we mentioned, Charlie Morton came back last night. He had a quality start, and so that's great to see from him. Colin McHugh has made a couple of rehab starts in the minors, and they're targeting him to return after the All-Star break, along with Dallas Keuchel. And so Lance McCullers' last 2 starts have not been so good, so hopefully they get him back on track. Other note, David Paulino, who was in their rotation but last month, he was suspended for performance-enhancing drugs last week, so he's going to be out. Not a big loss there, other than testing your depth. I mean, Paulino, I mean, come on. You're taking steroids and you have a 6+ ERA. That's ridiculous. So, I mean, he got what he deserved with that. As far as All-Stars, Springer, Altuve, Correa are all starters. Well-deserved for all of them. And then Dallas Keuchel and Lance McCullers were named as starting pitchers, and well-deserved for both of them. Obviously, Keuchel won't pitch in the game. He's still on the disabled list. So Chris Davinsky was named as an injury replacement, and so well-deserved for Davinsky. He's been the most important pitcher, I'd say, for the team this year, especially with all those injuries in the starting rotation. And the bullpen's been kind of a mess. Davinsky's been steady throughout. He can close games for you. He can pitch 2 or 3 innings. He can even start if they wanted him to. So he's just that changeup he has is one of the best pitches in baseball. As far as snubs for the Astros, I mentioned Marwin Gonzalez. It was going to be tough for him to get in. There's so many talented position players, and he wasn't on the ballot, and he doesn't play every day per se. But I mean, the production that we've gotten from Marwin Gonzalez, I think if there was a snub, it would have been him for them. So shout outs for me. First, Joey Chestnut. We talked about the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest last week. He won his 10th one. So shout out to Joey Chestnut for being the best human alive at shoving hot dogs in their mouth in 10 minutes. Shout out MLS. Houston Dynamo got a 3-1 win over Montreal Impact last Wednesday, and they are back to third in the West. Continually, they are amazing at home and horrific on the road. They're 8-0-2 at home, 0-7-2 on the road. Memo Rodriguez, we mentioned him scoring his first career goal for the team in a U.S. Open Cup. He got his first career MLS goal, so that's a homegrown player. The Dynamo haven't had many of them in their short history other than Tyler Derrick, their goalkeeper. So Memo Rodriguez, hopefully the first of many academy products that will be able to contribute for the team. And they're going to need him because they have a lot of players going away for the Gold Cup, namely Boniek Garcia, Albert Feliz, Romel Kyoto, and Cubo Torres, their leading goal scorer. So they're going to need the depth of their team to be tested in these upcoming weeks while those players are on the Gold Cup. Also, shout out to DeMarcus Beasley. He was named an MLS All-Star, so he got in via the fan vote, probably because of his U.S. men's national team experience, but he's going to be going up to Chicago to play Real Madrid later this summer. Shout out to FC Dallas. They beat DC United 4-2 this past week. Roman Lama had 2 goals, and they remain first in the West. And this upcoming week, they play in Kansas City. It's the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. FC Dallas trying to defend their title as they won the Cup last year.
Yeah, cool. And definitely also shout out to Jesse Gonzalez, the goalkeeper for FC Dallas. He ended up switching soccer playing nationality from Mexico to the U.S., and he might be the best goalkeeping prospect that the U.S. has now, especially as Tim Howard has just gotten he's up there in age. So yeah, I mean, like kudos to him. Also, shout out to the Dallas Stars. A lot of analysts and a lot of experts in hockey are claiming that the Dallas Stars won the offseason this past few weeks, and I kind of agree with them, honestly. So this past week they ended up signing probably to me I would say the best player in free agency in Alex Radulov. He's a winger who's great at feeding the puck to the rest of his team, and that putting him on a line with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin is just gonna create fireworks, man. Like this is a perfect fit. Also, with adding Martin Hansel, they address their penalty killing problems, as well as also getting Mark Methot, who not only helps in that department, but as a defenseman, he's someone that should help stabilize that defensive core with his veteran presence, as well as someone who's worked with one of the best offensive defensemen in the league, in Erik Karlsson. Since we have a player that's very similar to Erik Karlsson in John Klingberg, that should really help. And obviously, signing Ben Bishop should help fix the goalie situation, which has been pretty much the Dallas Stars' biggest weakness for the past 3 years, honestly. So, kudos to all those fixes, man. So yeah, very excited for the hockey season coming up, in all honesty.
I want you guys to visit our website, twnatesonsports.com. Also like us on Facebook at twnatesonsports. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music, where you'll get a notification as soon as we release our new episodes. We also have an email address, so send your comments and suggestions to us at twnatesonsports@gmail.com. Nathan, I'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you then, Maine.